Okay, let's just do this.
We did it.
We did it. We're here. We got it.
We're here. Okay, so let me make sure. Let me see where I'm only showing us live on my page.
Okay.
So if you want to go up, oh, just lost her. Hi. It's just me. Waiting for we just lost Meg, so we're having some technical issues. Sorry about that. Hang on, let me let her know we lost her. So what we're going to do tonight is you guys can put your questions in the chat, and we're going to answer whatever questions you have regarding your health. So I think no questions are off the table. It's just a matter of what do you need to know, and if we can help, we will help. And we got Meg back. So Meg, if you go up at the top there, do you see, I think it says like maybe edit, and it'll let you add your YouTube page.
Let's see. Stream this to your audience. Let's put here and let's see
Yep.
if it changes. A title is required for YouTube. Let's call it.
Ask us anything. Hi, Violet. Glad you came. We're getting started in just a minute. It is full moon energy, right?
It is. That's what it is. It's this full moon energy.
So, like I was saying, you can put any questions you have in the chat. We do have some questions that were submitted to us before this. So, we'll be starting with a couple of those. And then you can, anonymously, if you want, let us know what you guys have going on. Okay, so it looks like we're set. Meg, you're set up.
Yes.
And okay, so let's start. Let me first just explain a little bit about what we're doing. Nurse Meg and I, what we like to say, it's where science and spirit meets. So tonight's a Q&A, what we're going to do more regularly, where myself, a medical intuitive, and Nurse Meg are going to answer your questions on your physical, mental, and or spiritual health. So for those of you that missed it, we did have a disclaimer in the beginning. Remember, this is not to replace speaking with a doctor, meeting with your doctor. We actually really encourage that. That's going to be obviously very important. But we want to create a safe space for women, men alike to feel like they can come in and ask questions maybe their doctors aren't hearing them on, or just things you've been concerned about. It can be personal, it can be general. Our goal is to create a dialogue and teaching of how important it is to not only address our physical and mental health from a medical perspective, but also from a spiritual perspective. So, Nurse Meg, why don't you tell us a little bit about your how long you've been working and kind of your philosophy on how science and spirit come together.
Yeah, I would love to. So, I've been a nurse for 16 years. I've worked every department that exists inside and outside of the hospital. And through a lot of healthcare experience, I have noticed that there are a lot of medical mysteries or unexplained groups of diagnoses. There's a lot of really easy to diagnose simple things, and there's a lot of things that are just harder to explain. And as I get to know more patients, as I get to know myself, my friends, and you notice that there is a combination of physical and spiritual things that contribute to our symptoms, to our diseases or the dis-ease inside of our body. And it's kind of something that I'm still figuring out and still learning, but it is definitely there. There's overwhelming evidence that there is a spiritual side to life and to medicine, and there's a physical
Mhm.
side, and they are completely intertwined.
Very well said. So let's get started. Here's a good question. So some of these questions, like I said, were submitted prior. So if you have questions, you can put them in the chat. So can stress really cause physical pain or weird rashes? You want to start with that one, Meg?
Yeah, I love that one. So stress, stress is kind of like an overall, oh, I feel stressed, but what is stress really? Stress is we're creating and reacting to our environment. So we're creating the stress. Two people can have the same job, can have the same life circumstances and react to it differently. Somebody can be super stressed about this or not stressed about this. So when we react to a life situation, we react in a way to choose ease or dis-ease. When we're stressed and we choose, I hate this, I'm resistant to this, I'm scared of this, there's physical chemicals that our body releases when we react. And we react by releasing norepinephrine, adrenaline in the hippocampus, and we can measure that. We can literally go into your blood and measure how much cortisol levels, norepinephrine is released when you are stressed out. High levels of those stress hormones or those types of glands cause havoc in the body, because when we release them, we need them for life or death situations. Or let's say when we're being chased by a tiger, you release all this norepinephrine and your sympathetic nervous system kicks in and you're like, all right, I'm going to divert all my blood flow to my extremities so I can run away. But you can also experience that just sitting in your divorce hearing and you're not
Mm.
moving and you're experiencing the exact same physical symptoms. When you experience that for a long period of time, you start to have other things go wrong in your body because you can't be in that type of environment for too long. So certain organs will start to fail. You'll actually have some symptoms of overall inflammation in the body. So your ANA blood levels will increase. Then, because of that, certain parts of your body will start to suffer. You'll start to have some external and internal symptoms. You can have unexplained migraines. You can have rashes on your body that people are like, well, I don't know what it's from, and we've tested it for everything, but then you have high inflammation in the body, high reaction to stress. That's the explanation.
Interesting. I feel like too, I'd like to add that I have found we uh, we become addicted to this kind of fight or flight mode, and the addiction because the 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 desire to run is what can get us out of bed in the morning, especially if we're tired. It's the middle of the week. We have a job that's very draining. And so when we create anxiety or seek out anxiety, which unfortunately today is as simple as going online in the first thing in the morning, right? That anxiousness is what gets us up and gets us moving. And then that anxiousness is also recreated when with things we digest or foods or certain types of behaviors. So if we allow ourselves to become addicted to balance, groundedness, I'm not saying that we can hold that through an entire day, but we can have moments in our day when needed that we can go back and check in with that. So when we have that daily practice, when we sit down, even if it's just for 60 seconds in the bathroom or in the car, and we put that meditation music on or that chant on, we will snap into that because we're training the brain to respond to it. And the more that the body starts to come down and become more comfortable with being less fear driven and anxiety driven, the more the internal organs, not speaking from a science perspective, it's from a psychic perspective, start to balance and work with more of an ease than a stress or strain, or not working at all because of the amount of stress that they are constantly under. And then think about this: when you're in this fight or flight mode all the time, you're eating foods. So think about how that stomach, when it's like this, the stomach is tight and restricted because of the stress levels. Imagine how it digests the food, or I should say, how it doesn't, right? And so then we start to see this ripple effect. The food's not being digested, the organs aren't working properly. So, absolutely, this is where we are starting to see a physical response to what's going on inside.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's the power of our thoughts, especially as women, like the power of our thoughts that we can create physical responses in our body in that direction. Well, that means that we can go in the complete opposite direction of healing and peace.
Mm, well said. Yeah. Let's have another question. One sec. Let me just double check. All right. This is an interesting one. Why do I get heart palpitations even when I'm calm?
Because it's not necessarily your heart, it's not always your
Mm,
surroundings, it's in here. So
mm,
you can be in a beautiful garden, the sun is shining, and the waves are crashing, and you're like, this is, other people would be like, this is gorgeous. But then you're thinking about what's happening next, this stress thing that's happening, something you're worried about, your unpredictable future, or something that could possibly happen. And it's internal that's creating
mm.
internal responses, even though you're just sitting calmly and life looks great on the outside. You create that environment inside of you. Your external environment doesn't create it.
So, would you say then, in this scenario specific, are the heart palpitations actually happening?
Yes, I mean, well, I would say probably 75% of the time,
Hmm.
because you can measure it. And everybody that I have seen who's come into the ER and says, it feels like my heart's racing out of my chest, I feel like I'm having palpitations, I hook them up to the monitor. They won't necessarily have an arrhythmia, like an abnormal rhythm, but I can track your tachycardic, your heartbeat is beating well over 100. And sometimes there's not anything physically wrong. And I'll
Mm.
test them for a heart attack. I'll test their troponins. I'll do an EKG. And I'm like, there's nothing abnormal. This is literally you creating it inside of your body.
Interesting. I also feel like if we're looking at that from a spiritual perspective, we forget that the body stores memory and stores emotion. We forget that the subconscious holds, right? So you can be on a relaxed beach, like Meg was saying, and experience heart palpitations because the memory that is stored in the body. And a lot of times when we allow ourselves to relax is when symptoms will start to actually surface, because the body is finally no longer clenching, and it allows it to just do what it's like. I almost want to say it feels like the body's wanting to do something. And so the heart palpitations is this holding in, to be clear, in this case, not across the board,
Yeah.
as it pertains to this question, it's like it's waiting to release, right? Because we hold so tight out of fear, angst, anxiety, concern. And when we actually let ourselves come down, the body can sometimes, I almost want to say, come out. A lot of times I'll hear people tell me when they go into meditation, their anxiety gets worse. And that can happen in the beginning because you're actually allowing the body to just do what it feels it needs to do. And you're not controlling it, you're not clenching it, you're just letting it. But if you allow yourself to ride that out, you'll easily, in a good amount of time, get to the other side and realize that anxiety can come up and then you can also move through it. And heart palpitations, of course, I mean, Meg, correct me if I'm wrong, a lot of times are aligned with anxiety, right?
Yeah, that's absolutely a trait and a sign and symptom of generalized anxiety. Denise said something really interesting, that her heart palpitations or her elevated heart rate um, stopped when she went into menopause. And she's like, is that a possibility? I totally think it is. And I think there's many factors. And as I'm personally getting older and getting into those early 40s, I just don't give a fuck anymore. And I think there's a little piece of that that is very valuable. And I think that is maybe a piece of the puzzle and a piece of that equation, because people like me, my personality is I got to hold it together. I got to hold it together. And that's just how I was raised. So when I finally do a meditation or I finally lay down to go to bed and I slow down my physical body and my mind, that's when it all comes rushing in that
Mhm.
I have not been facing for the last 24 hours or even the last week or the last couple of years. And certain EMDR types of therapy has helped me to kind of slow down and get into those uncomfortable places where it's to ignore and not slow down is a coping mechanism. And then when
Mm.
you finally do, it's like, all right, now I have to face it. And now I'm going to get into that uncomfortable space.
I think also with menopause, right? It's about balancing out the hormones. And when the hormones are in a state of imbalance because they are moving us into a more empowered state, the hormone shift in menopause is so important and it allows us to grow into our power. So when we are experiencing a more balanced sense of menopause, we find that the body almost balances out because it becomes okay and comfortable with this new sense of self, which is what menopause is you're learning how to hold your power. You're learning how to hold who you are and who you are coming into. And when the body can find, whether it's through HRT or other methods, when it can find that sense of balance, there's a easier, the body isn't rejecting this new self as much. For menopause, I have found when you find the right acupuncturist, it's really been life changing for me. So that's something to think about for you guys too. So,
Actually, I
Anita,
want to say another thing about
yeah.
HRT. HRT will actually can balance out estrol. So there's all types of estrogen inside of our bodies, but estrol is the one that gets a little bit more elevated when we have those uncomfortable symptoms of, let's say, dryness or hot flashes. That's the one that causes all of those not as fun symptoms during menopause. So that's the one that will kind of like lower the estrol, increase
Mhm.
testosterone, and all the ones that make us a little bit more comfy. So that is definitely a possibility.
So Anita's saying, lately I've had a sense of vertigo as I rise in the morning, which only lasts about 5 seconds. Would this be physical or more mental, spiritual, stress related? Never experienced this before.
It could be both. It could be two things. So, I, so a lot of people will have what's called orthostatic hypotension when they wake up, where you've been laying flat for so long, and then you rise up to a standing position, and your body can't compensate your drop in blood pressure because your blood pressure is a certain level when you're laying down. When you stand up, your body has to change that pressure to compensate with gravity. Some people have a hard time, and if you get up a little bit slower, your body can acclimate easier. So it could be a physical thing, it could be orthostatic hypotension. But when I was kind of going through a little bit of like a spiritual awakening, and I would have the most intense, insane dreams where I would live lifetimes, days, and weeks, and I would wake up and feel so disoriented and dizzy when I woke up. And it did eventually go away when I finished a little portion of that, what I think was a big leap in my spiritual journey. So I think it can be both sometimes. I think the dream world, or where our body goes when it slips into what we call the subconscious, is something that's still being explored. I don't know if anybody has it completely explained yet, but it is a different place. It is a different level of consciousness. I dare say a different dimension. That might sound really
Mhm.
woo woo, but that's what I believe, especially with what I felt. So it could be orthostatic hypotension. It could be trying to acclimate from one dimension to another.
Mhm. I so when we depending A lot of us tend to save our intuition and psychic skill sets for the dream state. And I agree with Meg that if we're traveling when we sleep, if we are going to different dimensions, or if we're just simply going through a intense clearing of the subconscious, if we're working through past lives, if we're working through a current struggle in our life, if we're repressing something and it's coming up in the dream because you're technically being shown you have to address this, it's going to start to affect your health, or it's affecting your path this time around, we have to address this. We will absolutely wake up a little disoriented, maybe even. I love what Meg was saying about the literal, like if you think about it, if you're in two dimensions, right? What that's going to feel like, exactly like vertigo. So I agree. I think Meg kind of covered it on both areas, and it's really up to you to learn how to understand what's happening in your dreams, because our dreams are a combination of past lives, our past in this life, our fears, our hopes, our anxieties, what we watched on TV, what we listened to on the radio, what we watched on social media, conversations we had. Dreams will also have, if you've ever noticed, like random person you just happen to pass at the grocery store, because the subconscious holds all this. So this is why it's so important that we have that 5 steps to consciousness where we're meditating daily, we're doing yoga, we're in therapy, we're eating healthy, we're exercising, because then your sleep time becomes this whole other life of healing, of astral travel, of remembering past lives, because now you've you're daily clearing the brain, you're daily clearing the emotional body, you're daily strengthening the physical body. So nighttime all of a sudden becomes another avenue to heal, another avenue to grow, if we are fully prepared and ready and really taking care of ourselves every single day, so we can have that. Also, dreams, we know how much food affects our dreams. What did you eat?
Yes.
What did you drink? Is it too much sugar? Was it this? Did you eat just too late, right? Did you sleep on a full stomach? That'll affect your dreams.
Yeah, I have a therapist who was also a dream interpreter and a hypnotherapist, and he once told me when you're not in a healed place in your life, sleep is not restorative, it's surgery.
Oh,
And
wow.
I was like, oh, sleep
Oh, it's
being surgery versus restorative. Like, yeah, I want to get to the point where
wow.
it's restorative.
Isn't that so interesting? That's a great way to see it. It makes so much sense. Let's see.
Okay, more questions.
Oh, this is an I was gonna say this is an easy one, but you start, Meg.
Um, I do remember a question. Can you be allergic to a partner's discharge or to a partner? Um, I really strongly believe in that. I think that is,
Interesting.
and there's actually a trend going around on TikTok right now, and it is someone shows a beautiful picture of themselves, and the caption or the text on the screen will say, "What do you mean that he sucked the life out of you?" And then the next picture is them, 5 years into the relationship, and they have no color. Their face looks swollen. They have bags under their eyes. Their hair is there's no life, no pink, no you know they don't
Mhm.
even look alive anymore. And I think that not just a romantic partner, but the people that you surround yourself with, I feel like you can have physical symptoms and
Mhm.
your body will reject that
Mhm.
person entering you, entering your space. I had the same thing happen right around 4 years ago, where I actually went to the doctor for a lot of premenopausal symptoms that I was like, I've tried all this stuff and it's not happening. When I left the partner I was with last year, my hormones balanced, all of those symptoms left, and I got off all the medications, oh, look how miraculous when I just take out one element of my life,
Hmm.
how my body physically changed. My skin cleared up. Just so many things started to balance out and get fixed. And I really do believe, not necessarily you're allergic, but there's an intuition where you are not just, you can't physically, like consciously reject them. So your
Hmm.
subconscious starts to reject them.
Yeah, absolutely. Listen, how many times do we say, what, listen to your body, listen to your intuition? I think that sometimes we get caught up, we're so busy blaming the other person. We're so busy trying to think we can fix the other person that we just
Yeah,
ignore the fact that deal with you already, right? What's going on with you? Stop blaming them. But we have to come to that. That comes in time for all of us. For all of us. I mean, geez, my mom's listening to this right now going, how many years did you call me over that guy? Right. So it
yeah,
takes time and practice and diligence to be able to realize that it's now your job to heal what you allowed in your life for a certain amount of time. But also, what you allowed in your life was imperative for your journey. It was non-negotiable. It wasn't like, oh, I wish I didn't go through that, or why did I go through? You had to go through. It was not. It's almost like if you look back, you would think, well, if I wasn't supposed to go through it, then I would have left earlier, right? Either way, you have emotional trauma. We use that word, I think, pretty heavily, but you have
yeah,
emotional memory that we store. And so even when you're going through a difficult relationship and you're not, or a job you don't like and you aren't ready to leave, and that's okay because we've all been there.
yeah.
If you're still practicing, you're in therapy if you need it, you're in yoga, you're meditating, you're eating right, if you're still doing all those things, even on a small scale, you're going to see the light at the end of the tunnel. And you're also going to recognize what's going on in your body is based on emotion and not based on anything physical. But also remember, it will, once it starts to show physical symptoms, well, now you have to treat both. You have to treat the emotional trauma and you have to treat the physical. So I'm not saying there's a way to avoid that because we're embodied. I'm just saying we can become more sensitive to it when we are being conscious of a meditation practice and all those other things.
Very well
All
said.
right.
Yeah. Oh, I do remember a question that was submitted that I did want to touch on,
Hmm.
because it's also one that I get asked personally, like when
Hmm.
when my friends will ask me, and it was, "Is vaginal discharge normal every day? How much is too much?"
Okay.
And
Hold on. I'll put that in. I'll
type
put
it up.
I'll
Yes,
type it up for you.
and give everybody a second to think about that, and
Can you
everybody has
repeat it?
experienced that. Is vaginal discharge normal every day, and how much is too much?
Got it.
Okay, so I do want to preface this by saying that we are like self-cleaning ovens, and that discharge is not a bad thing. If you have discharge from a wound or you have discharge from another area of your body, it's not typically a good thing, right? It's like, oh no, my nose is running. Oh no, that wound is infected. It has discharge. Vaginal discharge is good. It is very good. As we start to reach a more mature age, right around our teens and beyond, that is literally our self cleaning oven. So any little bit of fungus, bacteria, uh, virus in there, or even just dirt and things, it's literally just cleaning out and then discharging what we don't need in there. So there's
Hmm.
no need to like go up in there and shove things in there, put any special soaps up in there. Absolutely not. Your body knows exactly what to do and how to clean itself. I like to compare it to, when you get like a blood clot
Hmm.
and you start to take a medication. When you take a medication, let's say for a blood clot in the leg, they actually don't give you a medication to bust up the clot. and to dissolve it. We don't do that. We give you a medication to not create more clots because your
Mm.
body will dissolve the clot on its own.
Oh, interesting.
So we just give you a little medication to thin it so you don't create more clots, and we just let the body do the rest. So your body's always trying to get back to a homeostasis. And
Mm.
sometimes the less you mess with it, the better. So normal discharge is fine if it starts to be a different color, if it starts to be red, if it starts to be greenish, if it has an odor that's really, really strong, and you think, okay, well, maybe there's some sort of fungus or pH imbalance in there, that's different. But that's totally normal to have some each day.
That's fair. Okay. What's the difference between medical anxiety and actual gut instinct? What would you say medical anxiety is?
Ooh, we call it white coat syndrome.
Okay.
So let's say you take your blood pressure at home and it's 90 over 50, nice and low. You get to the doctor's office and, the like fluorescent lights and the just sterile environment, it's freezing cold, and someone comes in with a white coat and they take your blood pressure and then it's 130 over 95. And they're like, oh,
Mm.
you've got high blood pressure. And you're like, no, no, no. I just get really nervous when I come into a doctor's office. And this happens early on when you are in a pediatrician's office or you're in some sort of medical facility. And when you're a child, you can't really explain to an infant, I'm going to give you a vaccine that's helpful. I'm going to, pinch your finger to test your glucose. I'm doing something good, because early on you associate this medical
Mm.
facility or this environment with losing your autonomy or losing your
Mm.
control, and you're going to be harmed in some way. And that gets stored in your body. And every time you go into this doctor's office, or you hear the sound, you smell the alcohol wipes, you're like, I'm in danger. And
Mm.
then that's medical anxiety. You kind of get, oh
Mhm.
God, I'm more nervous now. Um, but there is a difference between gut instinct when it's something that cannot be calmed down and it's a persistent, I should not go in there. I should not
Mm.
go in there. And I should not have this procedure. This doctor is telling me that I have pernicious anemia, and I don't think that's what it is. And it's that persistent nagging in the back of your head that is your gut instinct. And I think, medicine, we try our best. We only know what we know. It's
Mhm.
2025. We only know what we know. We have so much more to discover about the human body. So if you feel like, I don't think that was the right diagnosis, or everyone said there's nothing wrong with my kid, I still feel like there's something wrong with my kid,
Mhm.
listen to that gut instinct.
Absolutely. And one of, even for me, for someone who meditates a lot, I like everyone else experience anxiety. And so I have to be able to differentiate what is anxiety versus what is intuition telling me no. And so every moment that can be different. But that's again why I go back to having that clarity where I'm able to, because I can practice and can snap into a state of kind of consciousness in that moment. I can say, okay, that's just my anxiety talking. Like a lot of times I'll catch myself having a conversation with my mom and I'm like, listen, this is just anxiety talking. This is not intuition. Like, so, and again, you have to have such a balanced sense of self. And again, I don't mean balanced every day, all day. I mean, knowing how to find that. And if you can't find it, what do you do to get there? So if you're, let's say, on your way to the doctor and something keeps saying, don't go, don't go, don't go, and you don't know which one it is, then sit in the car, put on that meditation music for a minute. Dude, 3 deep breaths is mind change. It's like life changing, right? 3 deep breaths, mind changing, literally can change the mind from crazy to just calm, right? And in that split second, you can feel the truth. I'm not saying the anxiety won't come back, but you'll get a brief glimpse of the truth and go, okay, that's anxiety.
Mm-hmm.
So, that I wish there was some easy answer, but the truth is, when it comes to anxiety, when it comes to when it comes to instinct or intuition, you have to do the work to be able to know the difference. You have to learn what that subtle difference is. And listen, intuition overall is going to be more subtle than not, if that helps. Whereas anxiety can be really aggressive. Now, of course, when there have been people when they're in dangerous situations, or if they're driving a car, you can hear that intuition crazy loud because it has to be in that moment. But when we're talking day to day, you're going to, like Meg said, it's like this subtle, repetitive experience versus a whole body, like, right.
Yeah.
So being able to tell that difference is going to
It's
take
learned.
practice.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, 10 minutes left. I'm jumping off. I've got another show, True Crime Psychic Guy, and then I have a guided meditation after that. So, and I know, Meg, you're out and about living your life. Where are you?
I am at a resort that just opened up, and I'm working my other job. I'm doing some media videos and photographs for them in Orlando.
Got it. Okay, so you guys, we'll be back in 2 weeks because Meg is going to Italy without us. So
I'll bring you back something nice.
that'll be a blast. So we're going to come back in 2 weeks with no technical issues, and we're going to keep doing this and until we build a nice little community and get some momentum going, so we can really help as many people as possible. All right. So thank you, Meg. Go enjoy your time. Enjoy
Yeah.
Italy.
Yeah.
And
Thank you, everybody, for your questions. I loved it.
yeah, and we'll see you guys in 2 weeks.
Yes.
Bye, guys.
Bye.